Hello, students of class 7. I hope you are well. Today we are going to read the third chapter of your supplementary book, An Alien Hand, and the name of the chapter is The Desert. Before we start reading this chapter, I would like to recall, I would like you to recall one chapter you had read in class 6. Do you remember the chapter, The Desert Animals? On that chapter, we had read a few animals who live in desert. Okay, because as we know that not all kinds of animals can live in different climate, as in a desert climate. So I would like you to remember that chapter when we read this. You can see in front of you a picture of a desert. What do you see? What is it like? It's like an endless area of sand, isn't it? There is no tree in sight, no living place in sight, and it seems like no one will be able to live in this place. So that is the general idea that we have of desert. Here are picture of some desert animals and desert plants. Now let's begin the text. Those of us who live in regions covered with forests and surrounded by hills may find it difficult to imagine what a desert is really like. The popular belief is that it is an endless stretch of sand where no rain falls and therefore no vegetation grows. It is dry, hot, waterless, and without shelter. But this is not entirely correct. For those who have studied it, the desert can be a beautiful place. It is the home of a variety of people, animals, and plants that have learned to live under very hot and dry conditions. So, as you can imagine, every geographical area has different kind of climates. In the plain land, we live in a weather which is neither too hot nor too cold. In hill regions, it might be cold and most of the times very cold. But in desert, it is mainly very hot, especially during day. At night, the temperature falls suddenly, but during day, it is actually very hot because there is less amount of water and trees. But the popular belief that we have, see, just try to remember the picture we had seen in the beginning of this picture. Here, the picture we see in front of you, this is our general belief that we sometimes think that all deserts are like this, which is partially true. Some places in deserts are like this, but not all of it. In many places, as you know that in India, Rajasthan is a place where we have our Thor desert. Okay, there are deserts in many kinds of area also, but not all parts of deserts are actually in that rough condition. People live in many kinds of areas, okay, where and many kinds of animals also live in that place and plants are also found there, though the plants that are mostly found in a desert area are called cactuses. Okay, so they can do without less water. But desert can also be a beautiful place because sometimes it is different from other places and also very hard to live. But this is actually a beautiful place. And when it rains, it also grows beautiful flowers. In this paragraph, we see some words just like vegetation. Do you know what the word vegetation means? No vegetation grows. Vegetation means here plants. Okay. No kind of plants or crops grow there. And because of that, it is very dry and hot. The ground is not always hidden by a cover of grass, plant, and trees as it is in other climates. But whenever it rains, which is rare, Desert flowers bloom, and the sight can be as rewarding as that of any tropical garden. So, as we have in our hill regions or our plain areas, there are many kinds of plants. Just I would like you to look around you, whether you are living in a city or you are living in a village or any kind of town, you will see that around you there might be some trees or other. It might be a trees that you have in your garden or beside roads, and there are also many water bodies. We have many rivers and ponds around us, which gives us the sustenance, which makes our condition livable. Though in desert there are not many trees or plants, but still sometimes when it rains there, the flowers also bloom in that desert, in those desert areas, and on that time it becomes really very beautiful as other areas, as tropical areas. A desert is not always a flat, unchanging wasteland of dry sand. It may have mountains and hills. It may have an oasis, big or small. An oasis is like a garden, is like a green island in the middle of the desert where a spring or well gives plants and trees a better chance to grow. So, as we think that desert is just a vast land, is a endless land, which is very very vast, and there it is a wasteland. What do you mean by this word wasteland? You can break this word in two half: west and land. West means a place where nothing grows, no vegetation grows, no crops grows. So the field, the land is not fertile, it is not suitable for any kinds of growing. So that is why it is called a wasteland. But it is not always the it is plain. It may also have mountains and hills, as I will tell you later in this video, that in our India also we have such a place in Ladakh. Okay, in Ladakh there is a place called Nubra Valley and Nubra Desert, where we find a small desert area, but it is in the middle of mountains. And oftentimes in deserts, we also have oases. What is a oasis? Let's see. The picture you are seeing in front of you, the two pictures, these are oases. You can see that all around there are desert, highlands, there are sands and everything. But magically, there is in between these areas, there are a land where there are beautiful plants and also a spring or well. What is a spring or well? An water body, a water body. So you can ask that why in between these sandy areas, in between these wasteland, there is a magical beautiful place like that, because of this water body. As there is a water body, this water sustains the trees and plants around it. So that is why it becomes a beautiful place. Okay, it's like an island. Like there is an in the middle of the sea, there are small places, there are small land areas where many trees are there, which is a beautiful place. So if you can imagine the desert to be a sea, it is also in middle of the desert, in the middle of an unlivable condition desert, there is a small island of trees and water, which is actually very soothing and beautiful. A desert may be hot like Thor or cold like Ladakh. So these are the two deserts that we have in our India. As you know, Thor is situated in Rajasthan and it is a very hot place. But there can be the also cold desert areas which we have in Ladakh. Just as I told you, it is in a place called Nubra Valley or Nubra Desert. The place you see in front of you now is a picture of Nubra Desert. As you can see, the middle area is a desert area where you can see the sand dunes, and beside it there are hills and mountains. This is an animal about which you have already read in your class 6. It is called a Bactrian camel or two-humped camel, double-humped camel. As you can see that this animal, these camels have two humps instead of one. So there are normally another kind of camel which is called dromedary camel, which has one hump that is pretty common, but this type of camel is comparatively rare, which is two humps. Now, if a place, generally speaking, if a place has little or no water and vegetation, people usually call it a desert. So even whenever we see that a place has is scant of any water, it's when where there are very few amount of water, very less amount of water, and there are no vegetation, no crops growing, this place can be called a desert. Some deserts are almost totally without water. In such places, strong winds blow, raising heaps of sand and depositing them as mounds. These are called sand dunes that shift and move endlessly across the desert. Few plants can survive on such dry, shifting sands. See this picture. You can see that this place is a desert, and there are the sand has gathered in many places like small bumps of hills, like small mounds. Okay, why does this happen? As you know that in desert area the wind force is very strong, because in hill areas or in plain areas there are many trees or living areas which block the force of wind, but in desert there is nothing to stop the force of wind. So that is why the wind blows very fiercely, wind blows very strongly, and when this wind blows this strongly, the loose sand, it often gathers. It gets blown away by the wind, and it gathers in many places. So these are called sand dunes. When these kinds of things happen, as you can see, the sand is continuously movable. So there are very few uh, trees or crops that can grow here. You can see that in some places there are some rocks, around some rocks there are some grass type things that have grown, but otherwise there are no plants in that place. This is also another sand dune picture from Sahara Desert. As you can see that oftentimes the sand dunes also have a pattern like this. You see the pattern? the so it has a wave like quality, and it also grows in a very large quantity. It gathers in a large quantity, and along with the force of wind and direction of wind, these dunes can shift also. Okay, so if for example if the wind is blowing on the north, all the sands are going on that place and gathering, but when the direction of the wind change, these sand dunes can shift their place. Students, I hope you have enjoyed the first part of this story of this chapter. We will continue the rest of the chapter on another day, and that's all for today. Thank you. Have a good day.